I think it rather unlikely that you could have ever imagined receiving a brochure similar to the one you're now reading, or in this case, listening to. This must be true. I'm also certain by this point, you've already found that our operation is more than deserving of your business, and that the act of further listening is simply unnecessary. But we have a deal now, don't we? As a salesman, I'm compelled to beg you to stop perusing this quaint piece of writing and place an order. But as a novelist, I must command that you persist. Now that we've come so far, I feel it only proper to elucidate further and induct you into the remaining mysteries, if only to legitimize the time that you've already spent listening. As a gesture of my goodwill, I shall reduce the deposit back to a mere $100. In addition, I will pencil you into the books so that you will not lose your date. I will still require the earnest money from you, but we can tackle that formality at a later time. Why is this small down payment so important to me, you ask? Well, the answer is simple. I live on them. Yes, deposits are the magic mana that sustain me. Whenever I find my pockets deflated, I know that I can journey to my post office box and find money waiting for me there. It appears almost like magic. Perhaps tomorrow I will find yours there as well. Either way, at first glance, an uninformed critic, a class I by no means place you in, could find that the above-listed point makes us appear small. But as you have learned, the majority of my personal investment in the business has come in the form of sweat equity, or what some might call the bootstrap approach. And as for those bean counters of the world who might quibble about my assets, I am confident that you will argue on my behalf. You will, with zeal, point out that our physical material assets, like money of which we had little, were more than compensated by our rich supernatural assets. However, I must divulge to you, and honestly I feel I know you better now that we've been talking, that the story has a long way to go. And even though you may be thoroughly convinced of my venture's supremacy, it would be prudent for you to learn even more, so as to enable you to mount a noble defense of the facts with your peers. After all, a positive word of mouth is one of our best referral sources. Now, you ought to remember that the company was doing rather well for itself, but suddenly, in the year 2004, Riddlesbrood sustained damage to our corporate identity. In the case of myself and my small band of theater makers, the sweet taste of success was rather short-lived. The jolly old owner of that barn abruptly went bankrupt, bringing the entire operation to a halt. Most of my actors ran off like quicksilver. Only the wisecracking minstrel and the long-haired Ozzy stuck around. The cause of our proprietor's financial ruin is still unclear to this very day. I had even attempted to contact him years later, but to no avail. Though some suspected it was his frivolous spending habits or his irreverent depiction of Clyde that precipitated his demise, none of these were the case. Either way, it ended all the same, and with shocking speed. The Cedar Hall was locked up tight like a coffin. The silly man was ruined and never heard from again. I had tried to save it, going into unredeemable debt in the process, but it could not be done. In truth, if there were a debtor's prison in this land, I would be writing this from my dungeon. Uncertainty fell upon us like a heavy rain, soaking me particularly, its icy drizzle numbing my bones. The outlook was bleak. The bulk of the troop's income had flowed from that place. Thus, the Cedar Barn capsized, cast the Riddlesbrood Touring Theatre Company into turbulent seas, and so, drained of all means, I was forced to swim for mere survival. As the weeks passed, I once again washed up on the shores of my mother's house, where the attic welcomed me once again in its gloomy embrace. On my arrival, I was greeted by a small grinning figurine on my nightstand, its enchanter's garb still only half painted. You did this. As I thought, my gaze happened to rest upon the suspicious old clothes tree. I was quick to banish the item into the closet near the hex table in the corner. I turned the skeleton key and tossed it across the room, but this did little to ease my troubles. On account of the perilous state I found myself in, I was tired, distraught, and consumed by this second miscarriage. Anesthetized, I stumbled into a new normal, a melancholy state that only exasperated my nihilist tendencies. I clung cravenly onto the few shows left on the books, the only thing giving my life any meaning, shows that no longer constituted a business, but merely a hobby. I searched the help-wanted ads in the local newspaper every Sunday, biting back the simmering hatred of working for inferior men. I could never find much of anything there, which left the other 6 days of the week open for me to lie around and feel sorry for myself. I did spend excessive time online, emailing resumes to prospective employers, but I refused to write cover letters. There I drew the line. If they wanted me, those bastards could call. Anyway, occasionally I would land an interview for some minimum wage job. These I enjoyed, for they gave me the chance to put on a show of sorts. I filled out their applications and prayed they never called my fake references. I had little intention of taking most of these jobs, yet I found it liberating going into these interviews pretending to be somebody that they wanted just so I could refuse the offer. It felt good, driving my Vandal home after these little performances, revving its engine in defiance, until I got back to the attic and the realization came upon me that I had achieved absolutely nothing. I felt cursed by a demon, cheated by the universe, booed by the gods from their lofty balconies. Was I not a rational creature, deserving of my share of fortune? I was getting nowhere. I knew my mother was growing weary of my moods and lack of income. Something needed to happen, and soon. But the truth of it was, I really didn't want a job. I wanted my cedar barn back. Sadly, the thing had other plans. While walking down the street to pick up another Sunday paper, I saw some workers removing a telephone booth from the sidewalk. After all, no one used them anymore. Which reminded me that no one was using the newspaper to post jobs anymore, either. Most of the postings were schemes, 100% commission or internships. But before I threw the paper into the trash, I noticed one exception. The newspaper's publishing company was itself seeking enthusiastic and motivated individuals with a positive attitude for their promotions department. $10 per hour part-time. A marketing job would be a good opportunity, I thought. The pay was small, but the location was close to my mother's house, and perhaps I could even learn about how to sell my own shows better. So not knowing exactly what it entailed, I called the number. Surprisingly, they set up an interview with me that very day. I got ready, wearing my best suit and, like any performance, opened up my makeup kit and looked into the mirror. To get into character, of course. When I arrived, the people in the office seemed surprised by my neat appearance and confidence. Their awkwardness motivated me even more, as I supposed that their low expectations might give me some unexpected advantage. I looked around at the others in the room, waiting, laughing at them in my mind, knowing that they were pathetic in comparison to myself. It's in the bag! Ha! I leaned back into the leather chair and rested my eyes, just waiting for my name to be called. I walk slowly behind a man in clothing from a bygone age. He's wearing a wrinkled canvas coat and holds a lantern out in front of him. Costumed in a medieval garb with a heavy hood pulled guardedly over his crown, he moves cautiously forward, leading the way. I warily look around. I'm on a narrow path in a forest, tall trees encircling me, all leaning to one side. I'm wearing the fleece I had found earlier, its little claws hanging from the sleeves and over the back of my hands. My leather boots are making a slurping sound with each passing step. Dusky light dimly descends through the branches, where the scent of cut pine needles hangs in the air. The sounds of churning leaves can be heard from the many feet marching nearby. On either side of me are what appear to be other travelers who seem to be my companions, all in dark-aged dress. Over my shoulder I notice another figure walking behind me, a man in an oddly patterned scarlet coat with a lute-like instrument strapped to his back. Is that him? The minstrel rubs his hands together for warmth. As if all this were not unusual enough, he's wearing a mask. A mask as beautiful as it is unsparing in ornament. Slowly, as if acknowledging my surveillance, he tilts his head slightly toward me and lifts his chin, accentuating a fixed, painted smile. I look down into my hands and find a rope and realize that I and one other are pulling a roughly built wagon through the soggy ruts. The thumping, creaking, and squeaking of the heavy wheels combines into a dismal, yet childlike tune, repeating incessantly. The unwitting jingle escaping our position like the scent of blood, freshly let, drifts away into carnivorous noses. The wood along our path is dense, dark, and illuminated by nothing other than the mountain shimmering in the distance. Its beacon has dimmed a great deal since I last saw it, and the thundering, twisting cyclone that burst from its peak is now only a trail of smoke rising silently above. Gazing at the shining mountain, a hideous mask suddenly lurches into my vision, breaking the mountain's glare by its presence. This rough-colored, distorted mask immediately unbalances me. I recoil in horror, and my reaction seems to puzzle it somewhat. It is a muscular, shaggy-haired hunchback who has skipped up to me with an air of mischief. The harshness of his form convinces me it is male, and this is confirmed when he grunts quietly and lifts his mask to get a better look at me. The brightly colored, jester-like clothing might have put me at ease were it not for the axe on his back and the wide metal shield he brandished. Painted like a child's toy, it makes a low, thundering sound when he shakes it, thereby prompting the witless and half-toothless dolts to grin. This bizarre entourage and I slowly trek a winding path toward a clearing far ahead, all of us walking in line with the wagon as if in some ill-gotten parade. The weight of the cart becomes more noticeable with each step, and as I look ahead, I begin to see why. Breaking out between the trees, the great mountain again exposes itself, its white chalky face glowing like moonlight, and we are clearly moving toward it, gravity working against us. I have no idea why I accompany this burly band of rogues cart in tow as if one of their thralls. Have I been captured? Suddenly, the leading man stops, sensing some danger nearby. Slowly, the leader turns about, his hood casting shadows across a hidden face. I notice a long sword at his belt, its grip wrapped with golden wire. The guide puts his finger to his frozen lips and utters, "Shh." Everyone stops, and the monotonous music of the wooden wheels halts.
"Gragra, ga, aram, chima,"
he says.
What is it?
I ask quietly. A shorter girl beside me quickly turns her head, giving me the impression that speech is forbidden. Her hair is red, feathering out lightly about her disguised face, which is concealed like the rest of them. Her facade is intricately painted and surrounded by layered hair, cloaking several tiny birds hiding within it. Slowly, she brings her hands to her false cheeks, handles an unseen latch, and opens up her mask like a reliquary. She seems to be in her mid-20s. Her face is roundish, yet pretty, and the tone of her skin is eerily pale. But it is her eyes that I notice most. They are bright and full of secrets. She points up to the trees where many small creatures scramble, and the raising of her arm reveals the top of her ample bust peeking out from her low neckline. Fortunately, she does not seem to notice my attention hanging there as her gaze returns from the treetops. Warily, the troop and I move again, down a gradual slope, past a strand of thick trees and into a thinly wooded stretch of land. I constantly look upwards, paranoid about those little animals overhead, but growing more comfortable as sky replaces leaves. The birds begin to tweet more fiercely. She ruffles her red hair, giving the little flyers better mobility. Some zoom out of her wispy strands and others zoom in. The air around me becomes a cackle of babbling bird song. "What are they doing?" I whisper to her. One of the birds, a small gray one with violet feathers on its head, repeats what I said, almost like a parrot. She reaches up and the bird lands on her finger, after which she calmly places the bird in her hair with the rest of them.
Drunshul unathal a nul calma fabrum, Drunshul unathal a hearken. Welcome to the world beyond the veil.
The bird chirps.
Welcome to hearken.
She tilts her head to one side and looks at me.
Can you now understand?
She says in a high-pitched voice. I nod with astonishment.
Strange,
she whispers.
But how?
I ask the bird, then, feeling awkward, I address the question to her. She puts her finger to her mouth to quiet me. The bird then chatters on in this foreign tongue. She looks up, breaking eye contact with me.
These birds mingle. Sometimes they pass beyond holes in the scrim to other realms. This one,
she begins to stroke the small bird with her finger,
has been to yours.
Where are we going?
I ask.
It's called Carthagist, and some say it is the center of the world.
She answers, tilting her head slightly to the side.
You can speak, but carry no earth. Where have you come from?
I give her a look of confusion, which was no fabrication.
How long have you spoken lines?
She asks in a hushed tone. Shh! The point man whistles. She closes her mask and timidly turns away. The whole party of masqueraders treats me as if I were no stranger to them, yet all take care to conceal their faces, not only from me, but from each other. Strangely, I take no offense at this abnormality, as it seems less a scheme than a custom among them. We travel on, and I take care to speak no more. As the trees become less numerous, the road clears, allowing the wagon to pass more freely. Glaring rays from the mountain intermittently fire into my eyes as they break through the trees, forcing me to squint. Walking behind most of the troop, I notice that the clothing they are draped in is more bizarre than I had formerly assumed, while each of them clearly preferred a single unique color. The patterns in the fabric are more mingled. As my naked eyes peer harder, the patterning seems less sewn into the fibers and more painted upon. Like murals, the designs appear daubed on their outfits as an artist might compose a canvas. Even the brush marks are visible to me. I pull harder and harder on the rope. The old porter peers at me from under his hat, sizing me up. The others begin to grow weary of the trek, and a strange barking sound chatters in some of the treetops. The branches sway under the movement of a scampering army running within them. The wagon stops, and I let the rope go slack.
Fushe imimi uflate, atlais te zuna, a epled.
Gragra,
says the redhead.
Yes, small ones,
the minstrel says, then goes on to say more in the strange language. Yet the little bird chirps English to me only intermittently.
True, but far up country,
the hunchback returns in a low grunt. While they are speaking, I walk to the side of the wagon. A good deal of damp straw is strewn about and a canvas cover is concealing something in the middle. I lift it up slightly to find a bad odor and the sound of buzzing. I look inside and see that it is filled with human corpses, all of them without heads. Horrified, I throw back the cover, once again disturbing the many flies darting around the gore. I let loose a sputtering gasp. The man at the front stops, raises his hand, and silence falls upon the party. The wild hunchback, who had been combing tangles from his mangled mop, freezes mid-stroke and turns an icy stare towards me. In 4 great strides, he is upon me, grabbing my clothes and searching me. When his manhandling is done, he glares into my face with a pair of terrible eyes that are more like gas giants than organs of sight, cloudy, blue, and turbulent.
This slept well is not so drowsy,
he grumbles, shooing the tiny avian from my shoulder to deprive me of his words.
Fosh, omestedum ili, Scrimlander di scummy ili!
The other birds nearby remain silent, and no translation follows.
I don't understand,
I say. He waves at the girl, who moves slightly, startling the birds and causing them to land on her hands. The man in the white coat steps closer to me.
Halat lande aram, Drumshun ikar inol?
Little beaks chatter in response.
Where is your pouch of sacred earth?
I still don't...
I'm interrupted. The man lifts his mask, exposing a chiseled, war-weathered face under short frosted hair. His skin is stone-like, with cheekbones flattened from a lifetime of fistfights.
Mark me,
He utters without emotion.
speak or I throw your head to the boatmen.
He tosses me down with surprising strength. My mind reacts sluggishly, and before I know it, I'm on the ground.
Scrimlander.
The redhead says from behind her mask.
Impossible! I plucked this drowsy long ago!
He mumbles as he lifts a water skin from his belt and takes a long draught. Then the hunchback leans over me, sniffing about like an animal.
Kid's piss! He's just a wash-up!
He darted his wide eyes toward me.
Where you wash up at?
He speaks, Jogar.
The girl says. What the hell are they talking about? I say nothing, yet the leader holds me in a cast iron stare. His cold eyes are possessed of a dim twinkle, a thin shine as distant stars might have in the black sky. Visible stars that in truth burned out 1,000,000 years before. At last, the front man lowers his mask again, hearkening to some unheard noise a long way off in the woods.
I still don't remember how I got here,
I say. The hunchback grabs me with one meaty hand and lifts up an axe with the other, before the leader grabs hold of his wrist.
No, it is not time for his reckoning. We must seek out the hag in the woods now.
The malformed creature lets go of me, and the two back away, letting me fall to the ground.
He recites! He should be!
His words are stopped when the small gray bird with the violet cap of feathers flies off into the trees, ceasing translation.
Fosh onikem, debu, ili, ithleked, zerait leste, thelde, halaud, akplet, li, ufosh,
Says the point man with authority.
For Strananoni.
The girl says as she runs off. They all dart into the sylvan background, leaving the wagon to me and the unmasked porter. Finally, I am alone with the old man, holding the other rope. For some reason, he does not flee with the others and instead gazes at me, his broad brim slightly obscuring his right eye. He holds out his hand to help me to my feet. I look at him cautiously, and his blank face suddenly springs to life with an expression of long-awaited delight.
You have confused them, but I know exactly who you are, Ariel.